You can argue for and against letting certain people out of prison early if they can demonstrate they're not a danger to society. But like anything else, it comes down to people using their good judgment and government agencies having a little common sense. The question tonight is, do they? 360's Randy Kay is keeping them honest.
In 2002, when Joshua Komisarjevsky was convicted of burglary, he was sentenced to 9 years in prison. He'd been arrested 20 times. Judge James Bentavegna called him a cold, calculating predator. Keeping them honest, we wanted to know why, 4 years shy of completing his 9-year sentence, was this guy on the street, the so-called predator, paroled.
In my 25 years, there's never been a case worse than this one.
Connecticut lawmaker Mike Lawlor sees a complete system breakdown. Komisarjevsky hasn't entered a plea but is now facing capital murder charges for allegedly killing Jennifer Hawk Pettit and her 2 daughters. Police say Komisarjevsky and fellow suspect Stephen Hayes tied the family up and strangled Mrs. Pettit. They say Komisarjevsky sexually assaulted 11-year-old Michaela. Then both men set the house on fire, leaving the girls to die. Mr. Pettit escaped. Turns out Stephen Hayes has 27 arrests on his rap sheet and had also been paroled just 2 months before the murders. The Connecticut governor's office says the committee deciding whether or not to parole Komisarjevsky didn't have all the facts. Missing, even though state law requires they be part of the file, were pre-sentencing reports, which would have included Komisarjevsky's criminal background and psychological evaluations. We're told parole board members didn't have the sentencing transcripts either, which would have included the judge's cold, calculating predator comment. If only parole officials knew what police and prosecutors knew, that Komisarjevsky had been burglarizing homes since age 14, stalking victims, using night vision goggles.
If they had seen that stuff, they would have seen a few warning signals. It was discussed in court about his mental illness, his history of sexual abuse, and I think the uniqueness of it would have set him apart, and I think they would have paid a different level of attention to this case when it came before the parole board.
Lawlor suggests it was laziness, maybe even turf battles, that left Komisarjevsky's parole file incomplete.
When the parole board has asked for copies of police reports and asked for copies of sentencing transcripts, prosecutors and court clerks have refused to give it to them, complaining about the cost of postage or what the effort involved in making photocopies. And that's totally unacceptable.
To prevent another mess, Connecticut officials are taking action. The chief state's attorney is mandating all police reports be provided to the parole board at sentencing. The board will be able to access pre-sentence reports electronically. Plus, the governor says state's attorneys will provide parole officials with all sentencing transcripts. If only this system was in place back in April, when Joshua Komisarjevsky walked free. Randy Kay, CNN, New York.